But, and this is a noob check, alright? I'm going to say something bold here, and if you disagree, you're probably a noob. Am I joking? But I'm only half joking. This is kind of true. So, with eFootball 26 right around the corner, I thought it was time to talk about who were the best players in eFootball 25. I actually done the same video this time last year, so this will be a perfect trip down memory lane, and we'll be able to see what players came out over a year ago that still hold up, and then what new cards came out that changed the landscape. I'll also be showing the builds for each card, have some clips to show what I'm talking about, and then some different categories like most consistent performer, most disappointing card, and then any cards that I think were very dependent on certain metas that were around in different patches. So starting off with goalkeeper, and it is probably the most straightforward one. I still think this check is top tier. Now, if you asked me this time last year who the best keeper was, I would have said Czech, but you wouldn't have gone wrong with saying Schmeichel either. But really, I would have kept it to those two cards. I felt like those were the only two top tier keepers. Everyone else was a slight step below. But this year, I actually think Buffon is a player that you can maybe add to that conversation. Now, I have this OG Buffon, definitely not this version. It has to be probably the most recent one. But I actually used him on stream a few weeks ago, the most recent one, and he was quite good. Another mention is potentially Milinkovic-Savic that came out with the McTominay pack. I used him and he was amazing, and he's really good because of his height. Someone on Reddit did testing and found that Konami don't balance tall keepers. So tall keepers can save low shots just as well as short keepers. So that's why Milinkovic-Savic is very good. Obviously, Czech is quite tall himself. And also why Courtois would be an amazing keeper for free-to-play accounts. But speaking of free-to-play accounts, Konami actually released some good free keepers in the last couple of months. I think this Abiati is very strong. He's not as good as my old Czech card, but when I use this guy, I still feel very confident with him in goal. You can see all of his stats reach 90. They also released a Diogo Costa. Now, I actually haven't really used him myself, only 2 games, but you can see his stats are quite good. All 90s on every stat except for catching. But I don't think catching is too important. Usually I would just focus on reflexes, reach, and awareness. But sometime over the last 6 months, I think Konami made parrying more important. Traditionally, I wouldn't worry about parrying because I feel like it would always go towards your opponent's strikers. Definitely still happens, but I actually used a Showtime Courtois a few months ago, and he had like 99 parrying, and I definitely noticed his parrying was a lot better. It wouldn't go to the opponent's attackers, it would go to my defenders or out for a throw-in. So definitely I think parrying is a stat that maybe people have been neglecting for a little bit too long, and it should be something that's considered. In last year's video, I gave 2 honorable mentions, one to Dida and another one to Ochoa. And sorry, I had the wrong manager in there. With my build on 89 proficiency, Czech does reach 90 on all stats. But yeah, I had Dida and Ochoa mentioned last year. I think this year, they've just fallen behind just because of the free keepers Konami released. Okay, so moving on to centre-back, I would have to say this guy here, Maldini, is the best. He's just so good defensively, of course, with those stats, but he's very physical, he's quite fast, good in the air, but most importantly, he's so comfortable on the ball, like great dribbling, amazing passes, and he has very high weak foot too, so he can do it on either foot. I love having this guy on my team. I'm so happy I went for him. And of course, he came in a pack with this guy, Thuram. Now, I actually don't really like him as centre-back. It's not that he's not good, but I just think he's better at right-back. So when I talk about right-back, we already know the answer. Thuram is the best right-back in the game. But I wouldn't have him as the best centre-back because the main guy at centre-back for me is, of course, this Patrick Vieira. I said it last year and it still holds true to this day. I think this guy came out last February or March around. So this guy's been in my team for such a long time, and I feel like he's going to be in my team for another year or 2. I've tried the Anchorman Vieira and I've tried the more recent box-to-box Vieira with Phenomenal Pass, but I don't think either of them compare to this Vieira just because of how aggressive you can get with Vieira. I usually like having a destroyer at centre-back, and I don't think there's any destroyer that comes close to Vieira. He's like the tenacity of a Cannavaro, but the height and presence of a Van Boyten. So this guy's definitely still the best centre-back in the game for me. And of course, great at dribbling and great at passing too. So this time last year, I had Tomiyasu in this list of who's the best centre-back. To be honest, this guy probably still is. I just haven't really used him since I got Maldini because they're very similar players. It's just Maldini has a little bit better stats elsewhere. But you can see the very high weak foot, good dribbling stats, good passing stats. Still a very good card, I assume. I just haven't really used him. I also said Beckenbauer was amazing last year. He is again. He's still a good card, but he's not on my list because last year I was using mostly free-to-play defenders. Tomiyasu was the only pay-to-win centre-back I had because I don't think it's the most important part of your team, because I do think free cards can carry or rather punch above their weight a lot. So it was the last position for me to kind of go pay-to-win on. But I do think Beckenbauer is at that point now where in a free-to-play team, he's still very good, but in like a pay-to-win one, he just doesn't have that same aura or presence. This time last year, I also said Saliba was very good. I just think he's fallen behind a little bit. Stats-wise, he doesn't look terrible, but I don't think he's any I think spectacular, definitely not good enough for a pay-to-win team, and I wouldn't even use them in a free team either at this point. I definitely think there are better options. So for left back, I think we have a few options really, but a few of those options are one player. So Roberto Carlos for me is still like amazing, and it doesn't matter which version you use. I have 3 versions of Carlos now, and I done a video a couple weeks back on comparing 2023 cards to 2025 cards, and I was using, I think it might have been this version of Carlos here, or maybe it was something like this. And to be honest, I didn't notice much difference between like these older Carloses. I think the one I use is actually older than both of these, and then I didn't notice much difference compared to the newest version. And I think it's for 2 main reasons. One, I don't think defensive stats are too important for fullbacks. I think they can compensate a lot if they're physical. And then also, Carlos always has insane curve. What I do remember from that video is I was using a Carlos with 76 lofted pass, so this would be the most similar. So the Carlos I was using in that video was 76 lofted pass, but of course he had insane curl, and curl is way more important for crossing than lofted pass stat. And I think, like, to be honest, I don't think the lofted pass stat really matters for crosses. I think if you have pinpoint crossing and curl, you're golden. And I would actually say, like, this one with edge crossing, I think you could argue he's better without it. Like, I think edge crossing is good, particularly for like playing a little dink ball into a player's chest so they can take it down and shoot. I think if you want to cross it into a Collar or Ronaldo, I'd actually rather not have edge crossing. I know like the cross spam meta thing is use edge crossing, but like I think if you're using cross spamming, you're probably not thinking too much. And I think if you actually took a step back and used players without edge crossing, you might have a little bit more success, assuming they also have like the good curl. But again, I'm not a cross spammer, maybe I'm wrong on that. It's not the way I like to play. But one thing about this Carlos that the other ones don't have, I think you can finally like properly invest in his attacking stats. I actually put the level 3 ball roll on this Carlos, and he's starting to score a few goals for me. Actually on his right foot, you can see you can play him centre mid, and if you get him in centre mid, you can do a knock on finesse, and he's crazy curl. Like I actually do like Roberto Carlos a lot in this game. So at left back, I know I have him left mid here, but I think they're pretty similar in this tactic. I'd probably go for Carlos. Maldini's also very good at left back if you're playing a flat back 4. You can see in the top right, he actually can play left mid and right mid. I don't think I like him there. I just don't feel as comfortable with him. Not as agile. Maybe he's just a bit too tall and lanky for that. But in a 4-back or left back, this guy is really good. And then of course, someone I mentioned last year was Costa Curta. This guy's probably still good. I just don't use him because I've upgraded. Let me know in the comments if you guys still use this guy, because this guy when he came out was definitely the best. Let's see how many games I have with him. I have 1,300 games with him, so he definitely, you know, appeared a lot, but I think I've moved past him, which is kind of sad a little bit, because the reason I never upgraded from the free-to-play cards is because Konami always do give good defenders, I think. For the builds on these defenders, here's Maldini's, Vieira's, Thuram, and then here's my Carlos build. So for right back, of course, Thuram wins this. Like, there's no discussion there. But if you aren't a pay-to-win player, a player you can use, I don't know if I have a version on this account. I definitely do on my free-to-play, is this guy. Actually, I do have the version. This Koundé is almost as good as Thuram. I mentioned it in a couple of videos recently, but I've been starting to use him again more on my free-to-play account. This guy is so good. So if you can get your hands on one of these Koundé cards, which is a defensive fullback, trust me, you're almost there with Thuram. And here is the build I went for. Thing is, you can probably adjust this build. Maybe you can take one defensive stat on just to get that lofted pass up to 80, because I do think lofted pass is important for, you know, normal lofted passes. Not, I think for crosses, I think you can get away with mostly focusing on curl. In terms of centre backs that I don't have myself, the centre back I fear playing against the most is Van Dijk. Not this version of Van Dijk, it's the big time. But that big time Van Dijk is scary, man. He's so good, and I actually used him myself on someone's account, and I didn't spin for him because when I think of Van Dijk, I think of someone who's very comfortable on the ball, so he should have good dribbling and passing stats. The recent big time card didn't have those stats, but honestly, when I used him, I had no complaints. He was pinging passes across the pitch, very comfortable on the ball. I kind of regret not going from a little bit, but then again, I've already spent enough money on this game. I don't need to spend more. Like, I don't really have any attachment to Maldini or Thuram in real life. I would with Van Dijk though. Like, he was at Celtic, of course, and then I actually like watching him at Liverpool. I do think he is the best centre back I've ever seen. Shout out Sergio Ramos too, though. That guy is goated. And actually, there is a Sergio Ramos in this game. I still have him somewhere. Yeah, here. It's actually still a good card. I hope they release a legend Ramos. And then, of course, I have to put Philip Lahm in here. He was mentioned last year, and he will be mentioned again this year. I don't have him trying the right mid, but I play him right back, or left mid. And it all depends on the arrows on the other players. He's not as good as attacking at Carlos, and he's not as good at defending as Thuram, but he's right behind them on both attributes. So he's pretty much the most well-rounded player I have in terms of defense. So definitely a very good player to have. Although I will say, you can actually play Thuram right mid. I was playing Thuram in right mid when he first came out, and he was doing amazing there. You can see his stats. He's got 80 balance, good dribbling stats, good passing. He's actually very good on the ball. So don't doubt this guy's on the ball ability, to be honest. Actually, I haven't even completed his skills yet. That's how good he is. He doesn't even need the skills. Okay, so moving on to defensive midfielder. Last year, I only mentioned Gilbert, and this year is the only one I want to mention again. This guy is so good as an anchor man. Like, got the crazy good stats defensively, still got good dribbling. Passing, I don't think lofted pass is important for your anchor man. They really only need to do little small passes to the centre backs or fullback to recycle the ball. So this guy is really good. I'm sure that the anchorman Vieira is just as good as Gilberto Silva, but I wouldn't go for the anchorman Vieira because it means you're going to miss out on probably the second best defensive midfielder in Gilberto, and then you can just put Vieira like this one into centre back. So moving on to centre midfield, in this formation the other defensive midfielder kind of plays like a centre mid. Again, last year I mentioned Mateus, Pirlo and Xavi, and this year it's not changing again. I still think these guys were top tier cards. Like, if you look at Pirlo's stats, like, how can they ever get better than this? Like, what are they going to do? Like, give him 90 speed, give him 80 finishing? I mean, yeah, they're upgrades, but like, stats wise, when Pirlo first released the old legend card, they gave him way too high rated stats, and like, they kind of backed themselves into this corner now, so he's always going to be the best, I think. But yeah, amazing player. I will say though, I kind of feel like Xavi, I don't think Xavi's a better player, but I kind of prefer playing with Xavi. And it's because he's a little bit shorter. So he is 170 centimeters. I don't know what the exact height is. I think it's 172, but there's a certain height where different dribbling animations come out. So them players are a little bit more nimble. So I kind of have more fun with Xavi. But in terms of like most effective, he doesn't have the same defensive stats. So I'd have to say Pirlo's better. But it's also the reason I love this Mateus, because Mateus is also quite short, 173 centimeters. So it's probably 173 centimeters. That's the height. That's probably the good dribbling. And you can see his dribbling stats, like, they're not top tier, but he dribbles really well in game. He actually kind of reminds me of Iniesta, which is probably, I shouldn't be saying that, but it's true. So let me just rejig this team up and we'll move on to right mid. Oh, sorry, the build. So here's the build for Xavi. And actually, while we're showing the builds, I want to talk about a player I didn't get my hands on, but I know is top tier, and he would probably be most comparable to this fella here, Mateus, and that is Showtime Kante. I didn't complete the penalty game. I don't log in every day, and I miss my penalties more often than not. So I never got my hands on Kante, but I can assure you he's a top tier card. Probably just as good as Mateus. Just won't have the kicking power that Mateus has, because on my free to play account I have like player of the week Kante, and he's still a really good player. So for right mid / right wing, I actually haven't really upgraded this year. I mean, I know I have Messi, but I wouldn't play him right mid because I don't think he's physical enough or something. So I still use Salah, but to be honest, this Salah was dominating for me last year, I think, but this year he's fallen a bit behind. But potentially the best player I've used this year is the big time Salah. When that card dropped, the things I could do on the pitch with that Salah, it was crazy. It was actually like prime Messi. It was like, if we just look at Messi, like this version here in real life, like, you know, proper like goal scorer, playmaker, take on 3 players, like that big time Salah can do it all. And it's because when you compare Salah, this version, he doesn't have good passing stats, but that big time Salah has really good passing stats. So I actually would argue, I know for sure that Salah is the best right mid, arguably the best player in the game. One player that I should mention that I think it might be slightly overrated is Gareth Bale. Now, don't shoot me, okay? I have my reasons. Of course, that big time Gareth Bale is an amazing player, but one, I don't think he justifies the 300 player pack that he came out in. And two, I feel like he's a bit of a glitchy player. I like the concept of a glitchy player is someone who I think you can give this card to anyone in the game, and it doesn't matter who they are, they'll still do well with them. Another player I would consider like that is Rumi. But I think if you're a skilled player, you want someone who excels at something specific. And the main thing that Gareth Bale excels in is his kind of physical, and I don't think you can hang your hat on physical in this game. I think you have to hang your hat on either like top tier finishing, top tier dribbling, or top tier passing. So that's why I wouldn't have Bale in that list. But actually, we'll just speak about Messi for a sec. So yeah, Messi at right mid, I don't like him. I feel like he doesn't have the physical to get involved. I mean, he actually has the same speed or similar speed to Salah, I think, if we just have a look. So Salah has 90. Okay, Salah has a good bit more speed, but I think the main reason why Messi doesn't feel as imposing at right mid, whereas Salah does, is just because of the height. That extra bit of height means Salah can get up and down the pitch a little bit better. So a bit further back at right mid here, I think someone like Salah is better. But of course, like further up at right wing, that Messi is very good. But this Messi, I actually do like a right mid, and it's probably because he has just a little bit more pace. And then also the Roman flank playstyle. So he's actually stuck out wide. Like, Roman flank means he wants to come into this area and cut in. And look at his Messi stats. 97 finishing, man. This guy is crazy. And I was actually using him recently. Like, what a card. almost 500 games played with him. So if you're curious, this is the build I've done for Blue Boot Messi and then Salah. And then we'll come back to Blitz Messi in a moment because I want to talk about the left mid / left wing. So last year I mentioned Martinelli as the best super sub in the game. I would probably say that still holds true. Like, look at those stats. I uploaded a video saying this guy reminded me of R9 and I got slandered. But look at those stats. That's what R9 would probably look like, except he'd have a bit more physical. And yeah, I mean, actually that's probably what he would look like. Maybe a bit more curl as well. But like, those stats are crazy. And this guy has some of the best scissors feints in the game, just like R9. So look, I know what I'm talking about here. This guy is really good, and if you use this guy, you'll also know what I'm talking about. Like, of course, his goals to game record doesn't look too great there, but again, they're all off the bench. Or maybe the first 30 games are starting, because I was trying to card out, but 700 games off the bench. Then something interesting that happened, I got this prolific winger Neymar, and he's very good, and then I used to have this creative playmaker version. So when this prolific winger version came out, it wasn't much better than the creative playmaker version, but he was slightly better, so I used them. But then in 4.4, Konami greatly improved passing, and it kind of rejigged what cards were more valuable. And then I actually started using the creative playmaker version of Neymar again, and you can see why. Like, look at that 90 low pass and 92 lofted pass. This Neymar is still insane. One of the most fun players I use in this game. And even though he's actually very similar to Messi, like physical wise and the speed, I think I prefer the Neymar further back for the two reasons of, one, he has better lofted pass, and again, that 175 centimeters. I do think height is very important to like what type of players you use. Like, stats are of course the most important, but like there's a reason I like, let's say, Mateus as my box to box, but I've used Seedorf, who has better stats, and I didn't like him as much because Seedorf isn't as short, and then his dribbling isn't as nimble, and that Seedorf has like 90s on the dribbling stats. But moving into attacking midfield / second striker, I've been using this Cruyff recently, and he's definitely growing on me. I think the thing about Cruyff is he can't be your star player in your team. Like, I mean, he's definitely got crazy stats, so there's no real reason he shouldn't, but I think he is used best when you use him to complement the players around him. Like, the momentum dribbling means he can burst into space very well, and, you know, it causes kind of chaos in your opponent's defense, and it opens up so many passes. And then, of course, he has got the 90 low pass, so he's able to play the through balls very well. And then, again, he's got very good scissors feints as well. I don't have the double touch on him yet, so once I get that ball roll on him, I'll probably, you know, love him on a new level. He probably could then become the best AMF in the game, but unfortunately I don't have it on him yet. Sorry, just in case I kind of forget about the builds, my apologies. Here's Neymar creative playmaker build, and then I guess I'll show you the prolific winger one, because to be honest, I assume most of you have actually, if you do have a big Neymar, is this one here, or maybe the acceleration burst. Actually, also I did like the acceleration burst Neymar as well. I actually think the skill is quite decent. An honorable mention to Nakata. I don't have him on this account, I have him on my free-to-play account. He's very good, very well-rounded. I would say he's most similar to Cruyff, to be honest, in terms of playstyle. But in terms of who's the best attacking midfield or second striker, it's either going to be Ronaldinho or Maradona. It is hard to split them. What I'll say is Ronaldinho does have the best scissors feint in the game. It's a very underrated skill, by the way, scissors feint. I might have said it, someone else already has the best in the game. It is Dino. Dino definitely has the best, but like, they're all very good. And actually, the players that I'm saying have good scissors feint, you'll notice two things. One, they have really good acceleration, and two, they are quite tall, so they have long legs, and it means when you're doing the scissors feint, you can do it from a little bit further away from the defender. There's a larger window there, because they have long legs, they can burst over a lot better. So like, two players that I don't give scissors feint to are this Maradona and Blitzcurler Messi. I did give it to the Blue Boot Messi. I think the reason I did that is just because I kind of exclusively play him right wing, so I think it's good on the wing. But in the middle, I think, you know, a Cruyff or a Dino get taken to the next level with scissors feint, whereas like these small players, the scissors feint isn't going to make such a big difference. And also, like, Maradona and Messi are so agile that they're able to, you know, dribble without even doing skill moves. But to be honest, I think if I had to pick between Dino and Maradona, I'd probably go Dino, because this one has a little bit better passing than Maradona, I believe. Yeah, a little bit better passing. And also, most people don't like Maradona in this game. Like I'm saying, you don't really do skill moves with him. It's all about, like, you know, just normal left stick and sprint. So you kind of have to know what you're doing with dribbling. Whereas someone like Ronaldinho, you can kind of do skill moves and get through. So I'd say most people would prefer Dino. And to be honest, it's fair, because this guy, like I said, like, he's glitchy, he's so fast, he's got great finesse shot animations. Like, what a player. One of my favorites to use in the game. Last year, I mentioned this Neymar and Baggio in AMF. Still very good players. I do think, to be honest, Baggio is missing explosiveness and passing. Still a very good dribbler and, you know, finisher, but he is missing the, it's quite noticeable, the passing, I think. And then he doesn't explode like Cruyff or Ronaldinho do. Neymar is obviously very good at passing, and I think he's missing just the kicking power and a little bit of the explosiveness. He can still dribble very well, like the best of them. Like, I definitely think Baggio is someone who wouldn't be in a top tier squad anymore, or this version anyway. I definitely think Neymar could fit in too, though. So here's the build for Ronaldinho. And to be honest, you could probably alter this. Like, maybe you can go a little bit less finishing and more passing, get the 84. So if you're not liking this build, definitely just take a little bit of dribbling off and put it into passing. And then Maradona, here's his build. But I would argue Maradona is actually better as centre forward. It's where I use him more often. Like I'm saying, I do kind of want my attacking midfielder to be able to burst a lot into space. So Ronaldinho and Cruyff suit that a little bit better than Maradona would. But one player you're probably confused why he hasn't been mentioned yet, and that is this guy here, Ruud Gullit. So last year I said Ruud Gullit was actually the best left wing because, you know, he's very good at dribbling and you can play the lofted pass up to him. The game was a little bit more meta back then. You had to kind of play the long balls a little bit more. Now you can play a bit more free-flowing football. And to be honest, this Gullit's probably still very good, but I actually just don't use him anymore. I think my version's fallen behind a little bit. Like, maybe I could just get the ball roll on him and then start loving him again. I haven't, like, consciously stopped using the Gullit, but I notice I don't bring him into the team anymore. So maybe he has fallen behind a little bit. Which, to be honest, I'm a bit shocked about. If I had to pick one player I thought wouldn't fall behind, it would be Vieira. But I'd say Gullit would be right behind that. Okay, so in centre forward, we have a lot to talk about here. So last year, I mentioned Eto'o being potentially the best. I think just stats-wise, he's fallen behind. Like, you can see, quite low dribbling. I mean, the other stats are decent, but I do think that tight possession and balance are a little bit too low for where we are now. There is a more recent Eto'o that has those stats, so if you still have that Eto'o, he's probably still top tier, but this one unfortunately has fallen behind. But I got a lot of use out of this guy. 700 games, 500 goals, 2 assists. That's actually more than a goal and assist a game, so definitely a good effort from Eto'o. Another player that recently came out was Puskas. Now, to be honest, Puskas, when I first used him, I didn't like him, but I kind of knew I wouldn't like him because I was using him in this formation. Puskas is a fox in the box. So you definitely have to build tactics around fox in the boxes. He might still work kind of shoehorned into this, but if you want to get the best out of fox in the box, just use them on their own up front. So you'd have one striker, then a left wing and a right wing, and then you can actually see I kind of clawed his goals to game back a little bit. So before, when I was using him in this tactic, it was probably like 15 games and 6 goals. The rest of the 15 games, you can see the goals return got a lot better. So definitely a very good player, and that phenomenal pass is very effective on him, even with only having 80 pass. It definitely is more important. Like, I'd rather have him with 80 low pass and phenomenal pass than 99 low pass and no phenomenal pass. Particularly on forward players, phenomenal pass helps a lot. I think when we talk about strikers, we have to base all of our conversations around this guy here, because this is a card that Konami gave out for free recently. They also gave out, you could pick between like him or Michael Owen. I would say Michael Owen's pretty much the same level. I do think this guy's a little bit better just because he's got that a little bit of physical and still decent dribbling stats, but they're basically the same tier. So basically, I think this is the baseline for strikers, and you have to be a lot better than this guy to justify spending money on. And one player I spent money on recently was this Ronaldo. Now, is Ronaldo better than Batistuta? Probably. I would say most likely, but is he €150 better, which is what you're going to have to probably pay to guarantee yourself Ronaldo? I definitely don't think so. Now, I'm still glad I went for him because he's probably one of my favorite players of all time. Probably is my favorite. I know there's a lot of 12-year-olds who got upset when I called him Pendu, but I don't know why. Maybe, like, they are 12, so it obviously hurt their feelings. I don't know why a video game character would hurt their feelings, but that's the world we live in. But this guy's good. He's got probably the best movement in the game, something I noticed straight away, even on his older cards. Like, even a GP Ronaldo will have great movement. I feel like he has like unique movement, like every other player has, even on very high awareness, like a certain level of like runs they'll make, and then they just make Ronaldo make better runs. I know eFootball Universe says the same thing, but I feel like his finishing is just inconsistent or something. I don't know like why, but look, I do have fun playing with him, and it's actually a shame they didn't give Ronaldo scissors feint off the start. They didn't give him penalty specialist. They didn't give him chop turn. The three like things about Ronaldo, you know, penalty specialist in particular, it's what he's known for. But if you slap a scissors feint on him, again, he's tall, so he will be good at the scissors feints. I will give a shout out to David Villa. I think I have him on this account, the Valencia version. No, he must be on my other account, but that Villa is very good, but I do think like someone like Batistuta has overtaken him. So there's the Ronaldo build, and here is the Batistuta build that I settled on. Another shout out to Showtime Mbappe with the phenomenal finishing that came out recently. He's a very good card. Usually, I don't think Mbappe is worth spending money on. I feel like his free-to-play versions are, you know, almost just as good. I do think this Mbappe was actually an upgrade with the phenomenal finishing. I know he had a previous one with phenomenal finishing, but there was something about that Showtime Mbappe that just felt like it worked. But again, I don't think that necessarily means it was worth the money, because I think you can just use a free Mbappe and get a utility player out of him. But that Showtime Mbappe was very good. So a few months ago, I would have said Suarez was the best striker in this game. And he's still good, but I think he has fallen behind slightly for two reasons. One, in 4.4, two things happened. One, they obviously made passing better, so I think speed is a little bit more important. So I'd rather a striker who can get on the end of passes, through balls quicker. So he only has 88 speed. And then secondly, I think, like, this isn't the build I used to use, but back before 4.4, I thought finishing, there was two tiers of finishing. It was like 90 finishing and 95. I feel like 95 finishing isn't that valuable anymore. They nerfed finishing, I think, in 4.4, which you would probably think means you need more finishing, but it actually means means you need less, because it's nerfed. Even if you put the finishing crazy high, they still miss a little bit too often. Whereas before, I thought you had to, if you got to 95 finishing, your finishing was very consistent. So I think for those reasons, Suarez has fallen behind just a slight bit. And then that bullet header on him is useless. I don't know if I've ever scored a header with him. Maybe one or two. But definitely a good card. Like, it still is a good card, but not top tier like I thought it was maybe 6 months ago. But the best position, I think, for this Messi, the Blitz version, is centre forward. I do love this guy. Like, this guy is such a good player. Let's see his record. He's got nearly 300 games for me. Jesus, I've played a lot with him. I didn't think it was going to be that much. So 294 games, 238 goals, and 144 assists. But, and this is a noob check, all right? I'm going to say something bold here, and if you disagree, you're probably a noob. Am I joking? But I'm only half joking. This is kind of true. I think the Blitz Curler ruins this card. And I'm thinking mostly when you're playing him centre forward. If you play him right wing, fair enough. The Blitz Curler probably is very good in them, particularly if you do a scissors feint. Oh, actually, I said I don't put scissors feint on Messi. I put it on this one because a scissors feint into a Blitz Curler makes the Blitz Curler so much more effective. Sorry, I should have mentioned that earlier. If he didn't have Blitz Curler, I wouldn't put scissors feint on him. I'd put something else. But also, I think I'd prefer the card because I think Blitz Curler, you can definitely score them inside the box, but they're just a little bit inconsistent inside the box. I feel like Blitz Curler definitely suits. I remember a Kvaradona big time came out on left mid, and I think he is like a perfect player for Blitz Curler because he's got the very high weak foot, so he can kind of go down to the byline and cross it, or he can kind of stay out here and hit a blitz from deep. Whereas Messi is so good at dribbling in the box surrounded by 6 or 7 defenders that you're going to do that often, so you want to be able to get a finesse shot off very quickly in the box. And of course, the Blitz Curler can like clear the first defender. Like, usually a finesse shot might get blocked. Blitz Curler goes over it. But again, it's all about consistency. Like, that's one of the biggest things I value in this game. Like, can I trust my player that he's going to do what I think he's going to do? And I think Blitz Curlers, whether it's inside the box or outside the box, it's inconsistent. So I don't trust it, which is why I don't really rate Blitz Curler that high. But let me know your thoughts. I'm going to say I'm only joking, but I'm kind of not joking. I do think Blitz Curler rims Messi. And I hope if they release a Messi in the future, it doesn't have Blitz Curler. I'd love like phenomenal pass and momentum dribbling or acceleration burst on him instead. But particularly phenomenal pass. And of course, I mentioned earlier Maradona up front. So like, the reason I'd kind of have them, where's Maradona? Okay, so Blitz Curler Messi obviously has better stats than Maradona, but I kind of prefer Maradona because he doesn't have the Blitz Curler, and I'm going to be shooting inside the box with him more often than not. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Blitz Messi and Maradona. But I said this when he came out, and I still think it holds true. I think this Pele is arguably the best player in the game. There is one more player we're going to get to who I think, you know, is the only one who can kind of chat to him. But this Pele is so good. So I said earlier, there's a thing about noob players, like they are cards that you can give to anyone in the game and they'll use them effectively. I think Pele is like that. Like, this guy's glitchy, he's physical, he'll glitch through defenders, he can shoot off balance, so good. But he also does have that kind of skill element like a Messi or Maradona, where if you're good at dribbling, he's also going to be very effective. And I think that's a very rare thing to find in this game. Off the top of my head, I can't think of any other player like this that reminds me of like a pure meta like Rumi or phenomenal finishing Bale, but also that kind of flair and finesse of a Maradona. So that's why I think Pele is the best. And of course, I don't even think that phenomenal finishing is too important on him. It's mainly the phenomenal pass that's doing a lot of the work. Now, a lot of people kind of skip this Pele because they don't like deep line forward. I understand that. Deep line forward isn't just a play style you can throw into any tactic and have it work, but I play most of my tactics around deep line forwards. So that's why I love them. And if you have a good deep line forward, they are the heartbeat of your team. Like, usually it'd be the orchestrator that's the heart, but no, the deep line forward is, because you can hit the ball up to him and keep it. And then if you hit the ball up and you push it, the ball up, you're not on the back foot yourself. So that's why I think deep line forwards are the best. But if we had to give this Pele a contender, it is going to be, drum roll, it's going to be the deep line forward Messi as well. So if you don't like deep line forwards, I'm sorry, but maybe you should try learn them. This guy is still insane. And what's surprising to me is if I'm looking at his stats, I can see 2 problems straight away. One, not got great passing stats, and also he doesn't have good kicking power. And even then, his finishing isn't even top tier. It's only 90. Now, of course, we just did say that 90 finishing is probably fine nowadays, and it definitely is, because I've scored a couple goals recently where I do a ball roll on the edge of the box and he hits a top left corner and it looks weird, like it just shoots in, and it happens consistently. So yeah, in my eyes, this Messi is still arguably the best. Here's the build I went for, and then for Pele, here's the build. I think I might have skipped Puskas' build, actually, just in case I did. Here it is. Oh, and by the way, if I'm talking about Puskas, I'm also talking about Romario. They're very similar cards. I think they're basically the same. I can actually show you this. Basically, the stats are the same. I think Puskas is actually a little bit better. Now, Romario does have a goal poacher version. I don't have him. He's probably up there. Also, shout out to Bebito. Bebito's another very, very good player. But yeah, let me know who you would crown as like the GOAT of eFootball 25. I'm going Pele, but it is interesting to see that how many cards here are still from last year. Like, we've still got, and this is probably how I'd line up my best team. We've still got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7. Although you probably wouldn't play 2 deep line forwards. I'm not that crazy as we can put Maradona in. So 7 cards from last year. So I think it does go to show that you don't need to constantly be upgrading cards. Like, I think I've only bought 5 packs this year. I mean, that's quite a decent amount, but you know, part of it is because I stream on YouTube, so this game is a little bit a bigger part of my life than it would have been if I wasn't streaming. Like, I think the only player here I would have went for if I wasn't like doing YouTube would have been Ronaldo or Pele, to be honest. But I think it's definitely good to see that I got my money's worth with the packs that I did buy even last year. So yeah, I'd say best overall card. Okay, I think we'll go for Pele just because he has phenomenal pass, but trust me, once they release a phenomenal pass version of Messi, that's a deep line forward like this, it's lights out for Pele. This guy's gonna be the best. Most overpowered card, I'd probably argue, I mean, it's basically the same as best overall card. It's either Pele or Vieira. I'd probably lean towards Vieira on that one. Most consistent performer would probably be Maldini, Mateus, or Lam. One reason I wouldn't say Mateus is because I think the box-to-box works only in certain formations, whereas I think like Maldini is going to work in every single formation. So I'd say Maldini is the most consistent. Most improved over the year, probably Neymar, just because of the passing buff and 4.4. Most disappointing card might have been the Blitz Curler Yamal for me, although there is a caveat to that. When I played him in centre forward, he was probably one of the best cards I used. But I do think a right mid, I just don't know, I didn't like him at right mid or right wing. I felt like he was a bit isolated out there. I guess we're going to have to say Hullet fell off a little bit. Again, I think I have 2,000 games with him. Yeah, nearly 2,000 games with him, but I haven't really, I've probably played like 5 games with him over the last 6 months. So he probably fell off the most. And then like a meta shift casualty. That's what ChatGPT has said when I asked for a list of kind of categories. I guess we'll go Suarez just because I think in terms of pure finishing, he was so good before 4.4, but because they opened up the pitch more, we need a little bit more from our players now, I think. Best super sub, still Martinelli, I think. Best value card is probably Match Pass Tchouaméni, because he's almost as good as this Gilberto. As good defensively, just not as good or nimble on the ball. Although you could argue again, this Messi is the best value because you also got the blue boot and then the very high weak foot. Although I don't like this one as much anymore. The most rage-inducing opponent card would be big time Van Dijk, like I said, or Thuram. A personal favorite is probably this De Bruyne. I think I just love like De Bruyne in real life, so seeing him like able to pass a game, it's not as good as he is in real life, unfortunately, but when I do hit a pass with him, I love it. But an actual personal favorite or most underrated card, I think, is this Beckham. And this Beckham, if you watch me play with my free-to-play account on stream, you know how much I love this guy. What a player. Anyway, thanks for watching. Let me know who you guys think is your best card, and also let me do an underrated card or someone you think no one else is going to say.